The Stack of Devastation. Potentially. Haven't read them yet, so I wouldn't know. I don't know about you guys, but I am a sucker for sad books. If a book makes me cry, immediately add another star to it. This is probably super cliche, but I think one of the most amazing things that a book can do is draw an emotion out of you and make you feel something. And what emotion is stronger than pain and heartbreak? I hate nothing more than reading a book that I'm indifferent towards. And I think if you look at my Goodreads, you will see all the highest rated books have most likely made me cry or close to it. I don't want pain in my own life. I do want to read about it through a fictional standpoint. So today I'm going to read some of the saddest books that I haven't read yet, and hopefully I cry. Starting out, we have Firefly Lane by Kristen Hanna. I was told that Firefly Lane gives off exquisite summer vibes when you exclude the parts that emotionally wreck you. And we are easing into summer, and I'd like to ease into emotional heartbreak. So this is what I'm starting with. Now, the fact that this is what I'm using to ease into the sad books is saying something, maybe, because I've read 2 Kristen Hanna books thus far, and thus far I've cried at 2 Kristen Hanna books. So I do expect to cry at this. However, I think the other ones might be slightly more damaging to me. So we'll see. I actually have already started this. I am 131 pages into it. If you don't know, this book is about 2 friends and it follows their journey through a great portion of their lives. So you start off in one of the 2 best friends' point of views, at least 30 years into their friendship, but a year after they haven't spoken, it seems. Something has happened in their friendship to where they haven't talked in a long time. And then we jump immediately into the beginning of their friendship and before they met. These girls are so opposite and juxtaposed in a lot of ways, but they both share the feeling of being alone for opposite reasons. Tully was dropped off to her grandma's house by her mom when she was, I think, 4, and then didn't see her mom for the next 6 years. She grew up craving the love and affection of her mother, who was not around, and like every birthday she wished for her mom to come back. Finally, she does, and this woman, oh my gosh, I was so infuriated off the jump. Her mom comes back to pick her up because she feels entitled to her or something, and then takes her to a protest. Starts out in the 70s, did I say that? Takes her to a Vietnam protest and loses her in the crowd and doesn't care, doesn't come back. She just gets lost out there. So then she doesn't see her for another 4 years. When her mom comes back to get her again, makes her move in with her, but doesn't care about her enough to actually take care of her. So she is basically doing anything she can to seek the attention and the love of others. It's super sad, just the way she speaks about interacting with other people, and they give her like the slightest bit of affection and she's like, oh, they love me, because she doesn't know what that looks like. And so I was heartbroken off the jump with that. And then something happens that she ends up confiding with Kate, who lives across the street from her. Kate feels alone in the ways that she is in a big loving family, but she's kind of the outcast at school. She sees Tully, who is dressing however she wants and smoking cigarettes, and thinks she's so cool and wants to impress her. But ultimately, when they're able to break down to each other, they are the perfect match for each other. Unfortunately though, Tully's mom, as she always does, ends up dipping out of her life, and so Tully goes back with her grandma and has to move away from Kate, so they stay in contact through letters. And when Tully had to move away, I was already so sad at this point because I have had friends move very far distances. It's like a piece of your heart leaves every time that happens. And we have better communication now. Like, you can call your friend at any time, you can FaceTime them, Snapchat, all the things to connect with them. And at this time period, they only had letters. So I was already so sad for her. Tully moves back with her grandma, and their relationship is so pure. And again, sad because Tully is craving the approval of everyone, and she just wants to make her grandma proud, and her grandma is already proud of her because she is who she is. I've already gotten choked up at their relationship. At the point of the story that I'm at right now, the girls are in college, and I think they're going into their senior year. The way that people take advantage of Tully, especially when they know she's coming from a very fragile place, makes me so enraged. This does indeed have good summer vibes. I haven't been completely wrecked yet, but there is so much time for that to happen, so we shall see.
Only then did she tug my running shorts down to my thighs. My bowels unclenched, and an ungodly stench rose up around us. As predicted, she had to wipe my behind because I couldn't move. And then she helped me up onto my knees so I could piss into some high-end decorative glass unicorn she found upstairs in the kitchen while she clenched her teeth and stressed about what this might do to her Airbnb rating. Was their personal slave. Months passed, and the tyranny did not relent. By then, I knew exactly what Sergeant Jack expected from me. I knew how to cut the grass, rake the leaves, and wash the cars the way he wanted.
Stupid bug.
Hey, so Firefly Lane was sad. Quite honestly, I'm ruining the day I said that I didn't think it would be that bad. You saw it. I was incredibly unwell. It got me, okay? I am actually gonna stand by what my friend said, that this is great summer vibes until you get destroyed. Most of this book, I was having a great time. I was loving the female friendship. I loved the way the story progressed. Tully and Kate into adulthood. They were a product of their childhood and the way they were raised, and so they continued to have those similar problems in their adulthood. For example, Kate had a seemingly perfect family. She loved her family, but she felt like she was missing something on the career path, something to give her purpose outside of her family. And Tully was the exact opposite. She had an incredible, successful career, but she was missing that family. And again, in her adulthood, found it in Kate's family. But this story was just so beautiful. These two girls, like I mentioned before, grew up and experienced so many life events together, and they both had flaws that maybe would have ended a not so strong relationship, but they loved each other in spite of them. And I think it is, of course, a testament to female friendships and how truly deep women get with each other and why those friendships are so important. So it was really beautiful, beautifully written. I didn't think I was going to cry through most of the book, and then I got wrecked. The ending of this book was the perfect balance. It wrapped up so poetically and yet realistically at the same time. Not everything was the perfect bow. Not everyone had solved all of their problems by the end of it, but they did as much as they could. And I just think that that's kind of how life is. Like, you're not going to get a perfect resolution to everything in your life. However, so this was so good. I rated it a 4.5 stars, and I would highly, highly recommend this. The Nightingale is still my favorite Kristen Hanna. I don't think that any book will top that. That's the best book I've read in the in the recent years. So it doesn't top that, but I still really, really loved this one. Okay, I do have more to talk about because I may or may not have started and finished A Man Called Ove with little to no updates the entire time. This was just a really quick read, honestly. I listened to a lot of it on audio and then I read some as well, and I got like 2 clips. But this is about a man called Ove and his life story. It has a past and a present timeline. And in the present timeline, he's just gone through something very heartbreaking, and he seems like a very hardened old man. And if you're gonna go with some Gen Z, Gen Alpha, he would be considered a Darren, probably. He's just a very strict rule follower and will go out of his way to tell you what the rules are and how you're not following them. So at the beginning of this, it was hard to see how I would like this character. But as you delve into his past and see in the future timeline how he starts to branch out and to help people even before they ask it, you really start to understand him and see that he is a super caring person. He may have this rigid exterior, but on the inside, he really does want to help people. He just can't understand sometimes why they aren't doing things exactly how he would do it. And I think that's actually a really good, more subtle theme that is throughout this book. This is never explicitly stated, but you see through his lens that common sense is not always common, and that is not in a derogatory way. Like, when you grow up in an environment and around people who know a certain thing, for example, like how to fix cars, yes, that's common to you and it's common to all the people around you because that's your environment, but that's not everyone's environment. So just because somebody doesn't know something that's common sense to you, it may be because it wasn't a common theme in their life or had somebody to help them in that way. And they still have knowledge that is maybe common to them and not to you. So I really liked that theme. I feel like that's hard to identify sometimes in our day-to-day life when we just make a snap judgment of somebody or the way that somebody is doing something and it's not the way that we would do it. This was really just a very heartwarming read. It does have some very deep, sad themes, but it was really well written. The author made me care about people and things that I did not think I was going to care about. So yeah, I rated this 4 stars. I actually did not cry. It was very sad throughout the whole thing, but it was written in a way and it was so prolonged that I didn't feel like devastated throughout it, which I actually think is a talent as well, is to write a story with such sad, heartwarming, heartbreaking themes and to be so invested in it, but to still make it lighthearted enough to not feel solemn when you put the book down at the end of it. Overall, great book, great audiobook. I would recommend listening to at least some of it because this, I believe the author is Swedish. So like I would have never known that it was A Man Called Ove if I hadn't listened to it, and the narrator is really good. So recommend that. Also, oh, my light died. I'm gonna finish this, I'm sorry. If you like the found family aspect and kind of the way that it's written and structured as well, I think you would really, really like Vera Wang's Unsolicited Advice for Murderers. It's the same like older person finding a younger family and a new perspective on life. So I definitely recommend that if you liked this book. We're back, y'all. Last thing to say, and last book of the video, I am starting A Little Life. And I do know what people say about this book. Unfortunately, I think the delusion is going to perpetuate that I will be fine. When I see people talk about this book, they almost regret that they read it because it's just that sad. So hopefully I'm okay at the end of this, and for some reason I think I will be. But we can fast forward to when I'm like weeping and unwell, screaming, crying, throwing up, but until then, I am a little over 1 chapter into this, and I already really like the prose. It's reminding me a lot of just the way that The Secret History was written. So I really, really like that. Secret History was rated very highly. Obviously, these are not a similar story probably at all, but just in the way that the story is written are similar. And I'm someone who the writing style actually does play a pretty big part into my rating, so I think that this is gonna be really good. I think it's gonna be really sad. Hopefully I'm good at the end and won't be charging Hanya Yana Gahara for my therapy bill. So I will keep you posted. I'm excited about this, though. Y'all, it's been a while since I last updated you. I don't know why I thought I was going to finish this book in a week, but it is 800 Bible-thin pages, so I don't know what I was thinking. But at this point, I am 386 pages in. I've been tabbing. You can see the pink tabs are when I felt happy. Can you see them right here? There's 2 of them. Oh, wait, 3. I am really enjoying this story and a lot of aspects of it. In terms of the way the story is actually written, I do enjoy it. It's kind of puzzle-like. There's a lot of jumps in time. However, my only qualm with this is that it's a little bit hard to follow sometimes, just because she'll touch on like a very important thing that's happening and then cut it off before the resolution, and then we'll jump forward in time. You'll eventually get back to the point of the original story, but it just takes some work to get there, and so sometimes it's a little bit confusing because there are so many jumps like that. But it does keep the story intriguing, so I'm not like completely put off by that, but it is just a little bit hard to follow. Also, the side characters, a few of them are kind of hard to follow as well, just because there are so many introduced, because they all have like their separate groups of friends. Did I ever say what this was about? So if you don't know, this book is about 4 boys who meet in college, and this is just kind of their life. Like after that, they all have some traumatic things that have happened in their past, and some far more than others. So it's just really about their friendship and the way that they handle life, and I guess just how life happens. I actually didn't expect it though to focus so much on one particular character. I thought it would be kind of evenly spaced out, but one character is more prominent than the rest, and for good reason. You can tell that his backstory is a lot more traumatic, and there's a lot more we don't know about him, so it's kind of trying to unravel what he has gone through, because he's like very closed off even to his friends. And all the friendships are really earnest, which I love about this. They're all people and do things wrong to each other, but they at the end of the day care about each other and want the best for each other. So I like to see that, especially since they're all male characters. I feel like we don't get like strong male friendships a lot of times, so it's really wholesome to see. The writing is very good. I feel like I'm stepping into this world when I open the book. I think that that is maybe part of the reason that people are so affected by this. Like, I already feel close to these characters, and I mean, I am halfway at this point, but there's so much book left, and I think this is the intention of the author. But even when happy things are happening, there's a very poignant undertone, because externally, I think we all know that this book gets sad, but I also feel like there's a sense of dread, because that's just kind of how the character that we're following sees life. There was one quote that I tabbed. "Are you happy?" he once asked Jude. They must have been drunk. "I don't think happiness is for me," Jude had said at last, as if Willem had been offering him a dish that he didn't want to eat. "But it's for you, Willem." So even when good things are happening, you just feel it. Like, there have been parts already where we're getting some backstory, and I like feel it in my chest and it doesn't feel good. And the author's ability to put you so much in this story is like, when I put the book down, I still feel it. Like it's that feeling when you're like, what's wrong? And it's that you just sat in this world for however long. And actually, the part that I'm at right now, I'm gonna give you a couple seconds to skip ahead if you want to, because this is potentially spoilery. So, okay. If you're still here, I'm assuming you want potential spoilers. So from the second Caleb was introduced, I hated his guts. I already knew, and I felt that this would be significant because the title is used like right after his introduction. It says, he would have turned down Rhodes' invitation. He would have kept living his little life. He would have never known the difference. And I am 20 pages after that introduction, and I literally cannot believe what I've read. I've never been so viscerally angry reading a section of a book. And I just can't believe what has occurred. And I feel like it just feels like the beginning of the end.
Oh! I want Caleb. I've never been more mad reading a book. Literally ever.
Also, while I'm in the spoilery-ish section, as soon as there was another POV that got introduced, I think like pretty early on, and as soon as that was introduced, I had a hypothesis, and not a good one. And I think I'm gonna not share it right here because it is, like, if it happens, it'll be very much 100% spoiler. But I do dread what I think is going to happen. Overall, the story is very lifelike, very well written. I can't say that I'm like excited to keep reading, but I do want to know what happens because I am at like a very pivotal point in the story. And I finally have like a second to actually sit down and hopefully read a big chunk. So that's what we're gonna do. Also, I finally caved and got a good water bottle. And this is life-changing. Look at this. Over my book. I don't know what else you need. Here's another thing that I wanted to point out too, because I don't feel as though I'm a very squeamish person, but the way that some of these scenes are depicted, especially about people that the author has made you really care about, are pretty graphic, and they literally make me like cringe because I just hate to like think of people going through things like that, obviously, but just the depiction of it is very intense and frequent. So obviously look up trigger warnings for this, because I think this can be very hard to read for anybody, but maybe like actually triggering to some people. So that's all I have to say on that. But I just thought of it because there's another scene that has happened that is like pretty graphically intense. So party people. I just got back from the pool and I had to leave. I had to leave because I got scared. I'm on page 651. And this, where I stopped, it starts with the last time in his life he would, and then it gets sad. I think I'm still technically in the happy years. Yeah. Do you see this? What kind of sick game is this? Because I have not found myself happy once reading this. All my happiness is precluded by him sharing his backstory more and more with us and others. I don't know, I'm worried. I'm worried for myself. I will say, I like to, I don't know about y'all, but when I'm reading like a book like this that's like very widely talked about, I like to look up reading vlogs and then I'll watch them as I read. So I'll stop watching the video when I realize they've gotten to about the part that I'm at. And I think that most people that I've watched have cried by this point, and I can definitely see why. I have not yet though, because like most of the time you would say like, just when I didn't think it was gonna get worse, it did. But I just expected it to keep getting worse because that's what we've seen so far. and it really was just making me angry. Like I don't know if I ever like was filming when I was doing this, but every time I read one of those parts, like I literally was just shaking my head in bafflement that, first of all, somebody came up with this, and second of all, that they came up with this because things have happened to people. Maybe not these exact scenarios, but very similar scenarios have happened to people, and this is just like an amalgamation of all the worst ones possible. So, and I know at this point that he's not good, but he's alive and in the happy years. It was terrible to read about, but I got through it, and so now I'm on like present day when I think it's about to be getting sad. So I had to come home, hence the wet braids. I'm sorry, but they're here to stay. I'm not fixing them at this moment in time. But I think I'm gonna finish this book tonight because I have ample time and nothing to do. So I'm getting this thing done. Let's get down to business. Does anybody else not like when their hair touches them? Because, I mean, mine's wet right now, but like, realistically, it'd be back there anyways. Why is it so awkward to talk to you? Oh, you know what? It's not even me. It's you. You're awkward. I finished. Why did Hanya Yanagihara write A Little Life? What's your name, POV? So they calling you Bob? No. Why do you keep turning? If it looks like I'm crooked, it's because this chair keeps turning, so I have to sit this way. I have thoughts on this, and sometimes I'm not very good at articulating my thoughts. I'm gonna try my best. So I looked up. There's a bug on the wall. The way it just jumped off the wall. Oh, no. Where'd you go, fella? But if I look disheveled, it's because I am. And I did not find the spider. It's out and about in my house. Okay, what was I saying? I think I said that I looked up why Hanya Yanagihara, the author, wrote this novel. So according to the internet, she wanted to write a protagonist who never fully recovers from his trauma. Some of the points she's touched on before, I'm just gonna point out really quickly. So exploring the lasting impact of trauma, the power and limits of friendship, homage to a particular kind of adulthood, and it goes on to say she wanted to celebrate and explore a type of adulthood centered around friendship rather than marriage and children, which she felt was underrepresented in fiction. And then creating a too much experience. Yanagihara intended for the book to feel excessive, pushing the boundaries of sentimentality and good taste, and forcing the reader to confront uncomfortable truths about suffering, love, and humanity. And I think she accomplished every single one of these, and I think she did it well. I think at some points I was getting frustrated with all of the characters for different reasons. For Jude, who is the character who is struggling to overcome the traumas that he suffered in childhood, there were points where I was frustrated with how he was reacting to certain things, and ways that I felt he was inhibiting himself from getting better, in which he described over and over again, like, this makes me feel better in its own way, and you as the reader know that it's not a healthy coping mechanism. And his refusal to get help was really hard to understand, but I think that's the point, and I do think she did that well, because as somebody who has not suffered the traumas that this person has gone through, it's so hard to understand the mindset of somebody, and it's so easy for us to put a timeline on when we think people should be better from something. His friends made me mad sometimes because it was easier for them to turn a blind eye to certain situations and call it good when clearly he was suffering. But I think that honestly was a realistic depiction of people as well, because sometimes it is easier to ignore problems, and of course that's not the right answer, but I think that people do succumb to that, because especially when the problem is so persistent and it feels like there is no hope for it to get better. I think I landed on a 4.25 stars for this. I obviously really enjoyed it. Well, I really appreciated the story. I think it was well written. I think it got a lot of good points across. I did think it was incredibly sad and gut-wrenching, although one of my only critiques comes in this part where it was just so sorrowful throughout the entire book. Like I mentioned before, even when happy things were happening, you could just feel the underlying dread of it. And of course, again, this is her point, but it was almost starting to feel like, how do I explain this? There were parts where I teared up. I cried at one part, but other than that, I think that some of it was just, there was just so much back-to-back sadness that they didn't hit as hard as maybe some other people have experienced it for me. I don't know, I just felt like, I don't want to say it was unrealistic, because I think this stuff probably has, obviously some of it has 100% happened to people, and I'm sure similar situations have happened to other people, but for it to happen back to back to him and just reading straight through, it felt like it was getting sort of trite, and so that's where the 0.75 came off. Also for the incessant time jumping, which I usually appreciate, and I did in this to an extent, but it was just way too much for my personal preference. But yeah, overall, good read, sad read. I recommend it to people who are mentally stable and who have, if not, looked up the trigger warnings and decided that they will be okay. So overall, I finished these 3 books and I'm ready to move on to happier things. It's really interesting to see how, especially these 2, I feel like have very similar topics actually, but the way they're written honestly are kind of polar opposites. If you guys liked this video, please go on ahead and give it a thumbs up and maybe even subscribe. I'm so sorry, but I don't know if those are gonna get less awkward. I hate asking it, but it's also like, are you gonna think about it if I don't ask, you know? All right.